Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Missable Macbeth Moments. This episode is called Out Out, and we'll be discussing how two characters in this play repeat the lines out out. In this series, I like to take small moments from the play and do a deep dive into their deeper meanings and to discuss what Shakespeare could possibly have meant when he wrote them. First character that says out out is Lady Macbeth in Act 5, Scene 1 of the play, which is the famous sleepwalking scene. Here she talks about the crimes or the sins that she feels that she and Macbeth have committed, and she hallucinates that there is still blood on her hands. This is from when she went back to place the bloody daggers onto the guards after Macbeth forgot to do so after Duncan's murder. She says, "Out, damned spot, out, I say." Here she's saying that she can see spots of blood on her hands and she's desperately trying to remove them. By hallucinating the blood and using repetition together with the imperative verb out, Shakespeare is showing her desperation to remove the stain from her hands, and therefore her tragic attempts to atone for her sins, and symbolically to rid herself of guilt. Lady Macbeth in this speech makes several anaphoric links to previous times that she chastised Macbeth for being a coward or not masculine enough, for example in Act 1, Scene 7, or in the banquet scene, Act 3, Scene 4. She also has a flashback remembering to when Duncan's blood was on her hands, and when she is told of the blood that was on him from Macbeth, where she says, "Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?" She seems to be reliving the moments that have shaped her characterization the most across the play. Her quote, "Hell is murky," suggests that she thinks she has committed enough sins to earn entry into hell, and it's almost as if she can already see it. This links back to the Porter scene as well, where he believed that he was the porter of Hell's Gate, and it links to the wider theme of religion across the play. Finally, on this Lady Macbeth quote, and also linked to the theme of religion, when she says, "1, 2, why then 'tis time to do it," she's having a flashback to the time when she rang the bell to tell Macbeth it was time to kill Duncan in Act 2, Scene 1. When Macbeth hears this, he says it's a knell, which means a funeral bell. And it could be argued that this knell or bell that she's hearing acts in exactly the same way here for her as it did for Duncan. It's signalling her own death. On to the next character that says out out. It's Macbeth in Act 5, Scene 5, just after he finds out that Lady Macbeth has died, and he's now ruminating on how short and how futile life is. Amongst this speech, which has many wonderful quotes in it, one of the most famous is, "Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more." Here the quotation "out, out" refers more to life itself, and he uses the analogy of life being a candle that is only briefly lit and doesn't burn for very long. He then goes on to use the analogy of life being a pompous or arrogant actor who struts around on stage for an hour and then is never heard of again. All of Shakespeare's choices here show that Macbeth considers life to be temporary, and the last line, signifying nothing, suggests that he also considers it futile or pointless and could link to nihilism. There are two different ways of interpreting this monologue from Macbeth. Its meaning is ambiguous and polysemic. Either the audience can infer that Macbeth wishes Lady Macbeth had lived longer, that her life was cut short, and that she died sooner than she should have done. That's a very nice way of reading this, that he mourns for her, that he misses her, that he loved her. On the other hand, some infer that he finds her death an inconvenience. In this particular scene, to put it in context, his castle is surrounded by enemy forces, and he's just about to go out and fight Malcolm and Macduff. And to now have to mourn his wife and deal with that situation is not the thing that he wants to be focusing on right now. So why have both characters say out, out? Both these lines take place at points in the play when that character is just about to meet their demise and reach their tragic downfall. The lines show that they are starting to become more pensive and reflective, starting to realise the true cost of their actions across the play. Secondly, Shakespeare creates a link between these two characters, much like he did with Macbeth and the witches, through the parallel lines in Act 1, when the witches say, "Fair is foul and foul is fair," and then Macbeth says, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." Through this technique, the audience build up an idea that the characters are allied and connected to each other, and it forms a link in the audience's mind between the characters. Ultimately, the fates of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are tied together in this play, and unfortunately they do both meet the same end. Linking out to wider themes, we have guilt and also the motif of blood. In Act 5, Scene 1, Lady Macbeth seems to relive the key moments from across the play, possibly the things that she feels the most guilty about. For example, Duncan's murder. She also mentions the death of Lady Macduff, the Thane of Fife had a wife, where is she now? And she seems to feel a level of responsibility for all of these things, even though the only murder she was directly involved with was Duncan. The blood on her hands symbolises her guilt, and it's a manifestation of her regret and her guilty conscience, much like when Macbeth saw Banquo's ghost. Finally, it's really important to write about this play in terms of it being part of the tragedy genre, and how the characters and the plot of this play do match the conventions of tragedy. So for example, in both 5.1 and 5.5 that I've discussed in this video, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth seem to have realised their fates, and they know they're about to die. It is a convention of tragedy that the flawed tragic hero does have to die to bring catharsis and resolution to the story, and so that they pay for their wrongdoings and undergo a downfall. Thank you for watching the video today. I hope that you found it interesting. Do check out the other videos on my channel, and have a great day.